Pebbles Live.
Hi everyone, welcome to Pebbles channel. Today I am here to teach you science. And when I say science, you might think of a subject, science as a subject. But I am going to show you a different way of learning science. That is through experiments. Most of these experiments that we are going to perform are using things that we have at home. These are simple phenomena that you would have noticed. What I am going to do is to teach you the science behind those things, why it happens that particular way. So, are you ready to do some experiments and learn the principle behind them along with me? Let's get started. We are going to begin by doing a simple experiment. What we are going to do now is miscible and immiscible liquids. Now, let us begin our first experiment. So, what do we need for this experiment? We need 3 glasses, some milk, some oil, and you can also use some ink. In this case, I have taken red ink. So, we will start by pouring half a glass of water in each of the glasses. We label these glasses as glass A, glass B and glass C. So, we have filled each of these glasses with water. Now, in glass A, I am going to add some milk. Now we have added milk in glass A. Similarly, we take glass B and we add the oil. So now we have added oil in glass B. And finally, in the third glass, glass C, we are adding the ink that we have taken. Here we have used red ink. You can also use other colors. Now, let us keep this for a few minutes and then observe. So, let us observe glass A. In glass A, we can see that the milk has completely mixed with the water. That is, we can't see any separate layers of water and milk. So, this would be classified as miscible liquids. That is, water mixes with milk. Now, moving to glass B. In glass B, we added oil. And if you observe, you can see the oil has formed a separate layer above the water. That is, oil does not mix with water. So, this is an example of an immiscible liquid. Moving on to glass C. In the third glass, we can't see any distinct layers of water and ink. That is, they have mixed completely. So, ink in water is an example of a miscible liquid. So, what did we learn in this experiment? We learned to distinguish between the miscible and immiscible liquids. Now, moving on to our next experiment. Our next experiment is called rising water. Yes, you heard me right. It is rising water. Normally, we know that water flows downwards. For example, a waterfall. Now, in this experiment, we are going to see how water rises. So, we call this experiment rising water. For this experiment, you will need a plate, preferably a white one, a candle. You will also need some water and some food dye and a glass. So, shall we begin our experiment? So we will begin by placing a candle on a plate. We are placing a candle on our white plate. Now we are going to add a drop of food dye in some water. So we have colored water. In this case, I am using green color. You can use any color of your choice. Make your experiments colorful. So now that we have prepared our colored water, we are going to pour it into our white plate with the candle. So now we have poured our colored water into the white plate. The next step is lighting the candle. So now our candle is burning. What you have to know here is that fire needs oxygen supply to burn. So now the fire is burning because our atmosphere has oxygen. Now we are going to place a glass over our candle. So let us see what happens. In the beginning, we see the candle burning, but as time goes by, we can see the candle go out. And if you look at the bottom, you can see that the water has risen. Now you know why I asked you to use colored water. Because if we had to use our plain water, since it is transparent and our glass is also transparent, we wouldn't have been able to see this effect. Now, what is the principle behind this? I already told you that fire needs oxygen to burn. When we placed our glass over the candle, the fire used up the oxygen present inside. And when the oxygen got used up, the space got filled with vacuum. And this vacuum created a pressure that caused the water to rise. Thus, our experiment, rising water. It's fun, isn't it? Our next experiment is called traveling water. Yes, our previous experiment was rising water and now it is traveling water. So for this experiment, you will need 2 paper cups, a plate. The use of this plate is to prevent your work area from becoming dirty. You will also need a thread. You can cut the thread for the desirable length. And finally, you will need colored water. In this case, I am using green again. You can use any color that you wish. So shall we get started? I will first begin by pouring the colored water into 1 cup. You only need to fill half the cup. Do not pour too much or your experiment may not work. So I have 1 cup that is filled with half of colored water and our other cup will be empty. So what I am going to do is, I am going to transfer the water from 1 cup to another without actually pouring the water. So I am going to use this thread. So watch carefully what I am doing. I am going to dip this thread into the colored water. Dip it well. The whole length should get submerged inside. And after taking it out, do not squeeze out the water because we need it to be wet. So now that you have done this step, let us move on to the next step. We are going to place one end of this thread inside the cup that has water and the other end inside the cup that is empty. Note that the one end of the thread that is inside the cup of water should be dipped in the water. It should be half submerged. Now place the cups at this angle and just slant it slowly and observe what happens. If you observe, yes, the water follows the path of the thread and gets filled in the other cup. But you need to do this slowly to prevent it from spilling. So, if you look at the other cup, you can see a colored water getting filled. So, how did this happen? Any idea? In science, we have a principle called cohesion. Cohesion is the force that attracts two molecules of the same kind. In this case, it is the water molecule. Now, water molecules tend to stick to each other. And since our thread is already immersed in the water, there are water molecules on the thread already. So, when it comes in contact with the glass that has the water, these molecules tend to stick to the water molecules that are on the thread and get transferred into the next cup. It looks like magic, isn't it? But now you know the principle. It is cohesion.
Pebbles Live.